Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Orange County School Board's Rural Development Workshop, which has been scheduled for today for the purpose of discussing the proposed rezonings for a targeted rezoning for Kelly Park School Adjustment, a targeted rezoning for Overlook and the Cove at Hamlin and Sanctuary, and 129M SE2 and 40H SE2. Board members are attending in person with the exception of Vice Chair, who is absent. And serving in Vice Chair Gallo's role as Vice Chair will be our most recently serving Vice Chair, which will be Member Byrd. I want to remind the public that the board won't be engaging in outside communications, electronic communications, or otherwise during the meeting, so we can devote our full attention to the business before us. And with that, I would invite you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And now for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we begin, Ms. McGill, I am having technical problems accessing the presentation from my iPad, and I did not bring a hard copy of the presentation. So if there's anyone who has a hard copy of the presentation that they can share with me, oh, wonderful, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Neal. Okay, never mind. Thank you. And with that, we are ready to begin. We're going to begin by calling on our superintendent. Let me also mention that we have a number of speakers that are present to speak, and we will call on the group of speakers as we get to the item that they're agendaed for. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. And with that, Superintendent, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This afternoon, as you mentioned, we are going to go through 2 targeted rezonings and 2 rezonings. Our staff has been diligent about gathering feedback, sharing information, both with the board as well as the communities impacted. We will begin with the Kelly Park School targeted rezoning. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Stacy Neal.
Good afternoon. I am Stacy Neal, the Director of Student Enrollment. We are here at the Rural Development to present 2 relief schools and 2 targeted rezonings. Prior to beginning the presentation, I would like to introduce the student enrollment staff who will be presenting alongside me this afternoon. We have Thomas Moore, demographer, Renata Parapche, Senior Administrator, Dr. Andy Westerman, Senior Administrator, and Amy McCormick, Senior Administrator. So thank you for attending. Today we are presenting Kelly Park School Adjustment, Overlook and the Cove at Hamlin and Sanctuary. These are the targeted rezonings, and 129M SE2 and 50H SE2. And these are relief schools both located in Lake Nona. All rezonings, no matter how small, follow School Board Policy JC. A quick review of the 8 steps of this policy. Steps 1 through 4, staff with approval from the superintendent begins the process with the creation of timeline and meeting with internal stakeholders. Staff then conducts research and data collection, then creates possible option or options for the rezoning. Step 5, staff holds a community meeting to present options, explain the process, and answer any questions. Step 6, the Rural Development Workshop. Step 7, the public hearing, and Step 8 is in regards to the housing of the rezoning notebook. To describe the scope of rezoning, we use the terms technical, targeted, and relief school. Technical involves no students. Targeted, selected areas are recommended to be moved, and there are few students involved. Relief school zoning or rezoning, a new school is opening and affects a large area and a large number of students. Here is the rezoning timeline for this round of rezonings. February 21st, we held the community meeting here in the Ronald Blocker Educational Leadership Center. March 21st, today, we are having the Rural Development Workshop, and on April 25th, the public hearing. We have provided a timeline for when the specific rezonings, if approved, will go into effect. Kelly Park School Adjustment, Overlook and the Cove at Hamlin, and Sanctuary will commence August 2023. 129 MSE2 and 50 HSE2 will commence August 2024. All relief schools have a unique name that follows a specific naming convention. In this example, 50 is the OCPS real estate number. H shows that this is a high school relief school. SE denotes the school is in the Southeast Learning Community, and 2 is the school board members district. Where to find rezoning information on our website? First, you go to www.ocps.net, how to enroll, school rezonings. Once you have reached the website, you can click on the school level that you're interested in, and you will see the timeline, dates of the community meeting, and if the meeting was WebEx, the link to the recording would be located here as well. After the community meeting, the map options are posted and located here, and you can access the input survey links. Once rezoning is complete, the board-approved options will be posted here as well. The grandfather transfer is in place to ease the rezoning transition. To find the grandfather transfer, you would go to OCPS website, how to enroll, and this is where you will find the box for transfers, and then complete the grandfather transfer online. Eligibility for the grandfather transfer is as follows, and the student must fit one of the following criteria. The student has been rezoned by OCPS 2 or more times during a school level at the current address. A student has been rezoned from an established school to another established school. And in this case, the student may remain at the existing school instead of being assigned to the rezoned school. A student will be in the 5th or 8th grade who will be rezoned to a new relief elementary or middle school. Also, transportation is not provided by OCPS, and siblings may be eligible to transfer with the student who is granted grandfathered transfer, so long as the school has an available seat for the sibling and the school is not over capacity. In addition, the transfer for the sibling will only be available for 1 school year. The deadline to apply for grandfather transfer is May 10th, 2023 for the targeted rezonings this round. April 30th, 2024 would be the deadline for the relief schools. After tonight's rural development, we will post advertised options, and we have created new survey links for families to submit input. Remember, each option has a specific link for you to submit input. All input must be submitted by 4:30 p.m. Friday, April 14th. We accept 1 input per household. We also accept petitions, and it is important that you include your name and address if you want your input counted and presented to all board members. These too must be received by 4:30 Friday, April 14th. Also, 1 input per household. The last way to submit input is by email. For your input to count as for email, go to schoolrezoning@ocps.net. Remember, you must include your name and address, and it must be in by 4:30 p.m. Friday, April 14th. When submitting input, remember, you can only choose one of the options provided. I have received emails and I answer when received. However, if you want the information to be shared, please submit to the school rezoning email. Because we monitor the surveys, emails, and petitions, only the last submission will be counted. The comments and emails are shared with all school board members. Dr. Vasquez and school board members, this concludes my introduction, and we will begin with the targeted rezoning. Amy?
My name is Amy McCormick, and I will present the targeted rezonings this afternoon.
I was going to say, we couldn't hear you. If it's possible to pull a little closer.
How's that?
That's much better, thank you.
Okay. My name is Amy McCormick, and I will present the targeted rezonings this afternoon. The first targeted rezoning is the Kelly Park School adjustment. The elementary school targeted area is currently zoned for Zellwood Elementary. Please review the map where you can see that the red lines represent the current elementary school zones. The line at the top is the Lake County line. The area we are proposing to be rezoned is the yellow area. There are currently 21 OCPS elementary students residing in the targeted yellow area. The recommendation is to move the targeted area from Zellwood Elementary to Kelly Park School to provide additional future enrollment for Kelly Park School. If the zoning is approved, this is how the zones will look. The purple area is Kelly Park School, and the green area is Zellwood Elementary. If approved, this targeted rezoning would go into effect in August 2023. The second portion of the Kelly Park School adjustment is for middle school. The targeted area is currently zoned for Wolf Lake Middle. Please review the map where you can see that the green lines represent the current middle school zones. The area we are proposing to be rezoned is the yellow area. Currently, 14 OCPS middle school students reside in the targeted yellow area. The recommendation is to move the targeted area from Wolf Lake Middle to Kelly Park School to reduce the future enrollment at Wolf Lake Middle. If the rezoning is approved, this is how the zones are going to look. The purple area is Kelly Park School, and the green area is Wolf Lake Middle. If approved, this targeted rezoning would go into effect in August 2023. For this rezoning, we have not received any community input for the elementary nor middle school targeted areas. This concludes my presentation for the Kelly Park School adjustment targeted rezoning. Dr. Vasquez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's time for the board to have discussions.
Okay, and before taking input from the board, do we have any speakers?
No, Madam Chair, we do not have any speakers in person or online on the call for this particular rezoning.
All right, thank you. Member Byrd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. They have shared this rezoning with me, and I'm in support of their recommendations.
All right, thank you. Any concerns or questions by any other board members? All right, so we can move this forward for a public hearing. Thank you. Let's go on to our next item.
Okay. The following targeted rezoning we are presenting is Overlook and the Cove at Hamlin and Sanctuary. We have 2 options for the elementary schools and 2 for the middle schools to present. Option 1 involves Overlook at Hamlin and Sanctuary. The targeted area is separated by a chain of lakes from Independence Elementary, limiting direct access to the school. Again, you can see that the red lines represent the current elementary school zones. The area to be rezoned is in yellow. There are currently 115 OCPS elementary students residing in the targeted yellow area. This option would move the targeted area from Independence Elementary to Summer Lake Elementary. If this rezoning is approved, this is how the zones will look. The purple area is Summer Lake Elementary, and the green area is Independence Elementary. If approved, this targeted rezoning would go into effect in August 2023. Next is the middle school option 1 for this targeted rezoning. Again, option 1 involves Overlook at Hamlin and Sanctuary. This targeted area helps to align the middle school feeder with the proposed Option 1 elementary feeder. You can see on the map that the green lines represent the current middle school zones. The area to be rezoned is in yellow. Currently, 75 middle school students reside in the targeted yellow area. This option would move the targeted area from Bridgewater Middle to Hamlin Middle. If the rezoning is approved, this is how the zones are going to look. The purple area is Hamlin Middle, and the green area is Bridgewater Middle. If approved, this targeted rezoning would go into effect in August 2023. Option 2 for Overlook and the Cove at Hamlin and Sanctuary includes the Cove and Overlook at Hamlin. The elementary school targeted area is separated by a chain of lakes from Independence Elementary, limiting direct access to the school. Again, the red lines represent the current elementary school zones. The area to be rezoned is in yellow. There are currently 146 OCPS elementary students residing in the targeted yellow area. This option would move the targeted area from Independence Elementary to Summer Lake Elementary. If the rezoning is approved, this is how the zones will look. The purple area is Summer Lake Elementary, and the green area is Independence Elementary. If approved, this targeted rezoning would go into effect in August 2023. Option 2 for middle school for Overlook and the Cove at Hamlin and Sanctuary also includes the Cove and Overlook at Hamlin. This targeted area helps to align the middle school feeder with the proposed Option 2 elementary school feeder. Please review the map where you can see that the green lines represent the current middle school zones. The area to be rezoned is in yellow. Currently, 88 OCPS middle school students reside in the targeted yellow area. This option would move the targeted area from Bridgewater Middle to Hamlin Middle. If the rezoning is approved, this is how the zones are going to look. The purple area is Hamlin Middle, and the green area is Bridgewater Middle. If approved, this targeted rezoning would go into effect in August 2023. We've received community input for this targeted rezoning, and the results are as follows. For elementary option 1, 50 in support, 69 oppose. For middle option 1, 54 in support, 65 oppose. For elementary option 2, 48 in support, 71 oppose. For middle option 2, 55 in support, 64 oppose. Superintendent staff recommendation is to not move forward with this targeted rezone. This concludes my presentation for the Overlook and the Cove at Hamlin and Sanctuary targeted rezoning. Dr. Vasquez?
Dr. Vasquez, thank you. Ms. Embald, do we have speakers?
We do. You have 4 speakers on this particular
All right,
rezoning.
thanks.
Ready for
Let's hear from the speakers first, if it's all right.
Your first in-person speaker is Carolyn Staples.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Staples.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Staples. I live in Overlook at Hamlin. I came here in August and asked for my neighborhood to be rezoned to Summer Lake Elementary and Hamlin Middle. As we all know, mental health is a huge problem for our youth and a big focus for Orange County Public Schools. The years between childhood and adulthood represent a critical period of transition and significant cognitive, mental, emotional, and social change. While adolescence is a time of tremendous growth and potential, navigating new milestones in preparation for adult roles involving education, employment, relationships, and living circumstances can be difficult. These transitions can lead to various mental health challenges that can be associated with increased risk for suicide. This comes directly from the OCPS Mental Health Services website. The first common sign on there is withdrawal from friends, and that's what our current zoning is doing to students and families in my neighborhood. Right now, the way we are zoned, our children go to school from kindergarten through 8th grade together, and during one of the most important school years, they go to high school with some, or in most cases, none of their friends. This is the reality of what my neighborhood friends' kids have gone through, and it has been extremely hard for them. No one wants to be the kid sitting under the stairs by themselves because all their friends went to the other school. This happened to me in Miami going to school, and it was devastating. I want better for my sons and better for my neighbors' kids. Through this process, I got to meet the office who handles enrollment. In one meeting, I learned that 20-ish% of students from Bridgewater go to Horizon High, while the rest go to Windermere High. Right now, my neighborhood that's connected to Summer Lake is 0.40 away from Summer Lake Elementary, while we are currently being bused 3.5 miles away to Independence. Our neighborhood is being bused to a school that's overcrowded. Our neighborhood is being bused when they have a shortage of bus drivers. Through this process, my reasons for wanting this rezone have grown because of all the data points that this is a logical decision. It will have all neighbors together that should have been together since Summer Lake Elementary started and keep them together going to Hamlin Middle and then to Horizon High. To summarize, the current rezone is not adhering to the mental health guidelines established on the OCPS website. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let's take our next speaker.
Your next in-person speaker is Valeria Restrepo.
Welcome.
Thank you. My first point that I want to talk about is the distance of the school to our homes. So right now, we are 0.4%, like 4 mile from the school. The Summer Lake is inside our community, and right now we're being bused to a different school. Our kids, 4 houses away, have to walk 5 minutes to a bus stop where they have to be in a bus for 40 minutes to get to school and then bus back 40 minutes to get home. While my neighbor's kids 4 houses down walks the same 5 minutes to the school and walk 5 minutes back home, while our kids are walking the same 5 minutes to a bus stop. That, with the mental health and on top of everything, let's talk about the kids, which is why we're here, right? These kids that are in the bus for 40 minutes after a long day in school, get home, they don't have the chance to eat their snack before activities, correct? Then the next day they have to wake up 45 minutes earlier than their neighbors 4 houses down because they have to be bused to school and they have to wake up earlier. So again, at this point, we're not thinking about the kids. I also wanted to talk about the racism that I've experienced with the PTO at Summer Lake Elementary, and the fact that our board member disregarded the other schools and made it a point to only allow Summer Lake Elementary School people to vote on this regard. My kid goes to Summer Lake at this point, and it is very sad that in our last event, in our last field event, the PTO members were saying how they should stop this regardless of what has to happen, because Overlook and the Cove has a lot of immigrant kids, and they didn't want more immigrant kids into the school. So the fact that you guys are allowing Summer Lake, or our board member is incentivizing Summer Lake families to speak on this behalf, it's detrimental. I believe that we should do better for our kids and think about the kids and not the PTO members, their parents. Let's think about our kids for once and what they have to do to wake up early, to get home tired whenever they could walk 0.4 miles to their home because the school is inside the community where they don't have to cross any major road. Thank you.
Thank you. I forgot to mention at the beginning, we don't allow clapping or any sounds, boos, hisses, clapping. But if you do want to show support, you could do so by thumbs up, opposition by thumbs down. Thank you for adhering to those rules. Let's take our next speaker.
Your next in-person speaker is Eloise Moffett.
Ms. Moffett, welcome.
Thank you. Valerie, you're short. Thank you. And I mean, it's not difficult. It's not easy for me to stand up here and talk. I have been one of those that have been supporting this from day one. You would have remembered I came back here back in July. When I came in July, I actually popped on our community Facebook that we were actually planning on coming here to make sure that our community was aware. At that point, we did mention only the elementary school. And at that point, there was support, and some of those members are here today. That not any point was there any opposition at that stage. So I just want to put that point out there. What I've witnessed over the past 8 weeks has been disgusting. It makes me really embarrassed to be living in the community that I'm in, and at some points even in this country. I've witnessed racism myself, as you can tell from my strong Floridian accent. I'm not from here. I am a Brit, and I actually sit in that immigrant community that has been said, that Valerie mentioned just then, which in turn means my children are immigrants. What right do we have to be here? You know, and this is kind of what we've been dealing with over the past 6 weeks. We've had PTO presidents that have been opposing to this publicly on Facebook, who have been meeting with other PTO presidents of Summer Lake Elementary School, sorry, British in me there, and beginning campaigns on Facebook to, we don't want those kids. So our neighbouring community. Our community, you can't even tell the difference when you're walking through Overlook to Summer Lake. It's as if it's one big community. We are two separate communities. But to hear that they don't want our children at their school baffles me. It's even got me to the point of, where are my little boys? They're 4 years old, going into elementary school in August. Where do I even want them to go at this point? Because, you know, we've got the PTO president of Bridgewater opposing against us, who's then talking to the PTOs at Summer Lake. And as Valerie said, one of our own board members actually writing on her Facebook, asking for Summer Lake community for their input. What has it got to do with the Summer Lake community? This affects the Overlook, Hamlin and Sanctuary. And I appreciate that the post was updated 2 hours before that the survey was due to close. The damage had already been done. You know, we're 114 children for this rezone for the elementary side. How can we compete with a community of, well, however many thousands there are, but 747 parents of Summer Lake Elementary School? My children play at Summer Lake Park. Are we not allowed to go to Summer Lake Park because we live in the Overlook? No, it's a public park. The same with the school. It's a public school. We should be allowed to go to that school. I support all of these comments and these points that are being made today, so I'm not going to repeat them. But we are one of those families that could walk to school. I've got so much more to say on this, but I appreciate the things just bleeped at me. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moffett, and thank you for being here. I think we have one more speaker.
Yes, your last speaker on this particular rezoning is Patrick Clark.
Hi, my name is Patrick Clark. I live on Black Quill and Overlook, which is the border between Summer Lake and Independence Elementary. I know there's no easy way to make these decisions, and it's impossible to please everyone. Changing schools means leaving friends and teachers for something new, and I get it, and I empathize with those who are not in favor of the rezone. But I believe that these reasons are what keep people from looking outside their own situation and realizing that in the long run, this rezone is actually what's best for our community. We moved into our home in Overlook in 2016, and though we were zoned for Independence and believed it to be a good school, we knew that due to the amount of growth in the area, there were more schools planned that were closer, and we were quite certain, as I'm sure that many of our neighbors also were, that we would be rezoned for one of them. Our son is now 5 and will be entering kindergarten this fall. The new schools were built, and we ultimately were not zoned for Summer Lake, which is less than a 10-minute walk from our house. Being able to easily walk to school will be nice, but the single most important reason for approving the proposed rezone is that it will address a significant discrepancy in our current zoning system. According to a document sent to us by Ms. Neal's team, less than 30% of the high school students at Bridgewater are zoned for Horizon High School, which creates an unnecessary fragmentation of our children's educational journey. The rezone will fix that by fostering long-term academic and social continuity for children. When children have the opportunity to continue their education alongside their peers from elementary school to middle school to high school, they benefit from the stability and familiarity of established relationships. This creates a smoother transition between educational levels and can lead to enhanced academic performance, increased confidence, and a stronger sense of belonging. By addressing the current zoning discrepancy and ensuring that our kids are attending the same schools as the majority of their peers, we are not only investing in their academic success, but also in the long-term well-being of our community. Rezoning will help us create a more cohesive, supportive, and successful educational environment that benefits every student in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers? All right, I'll open it up to board comments or discussion. I do have a question. I hear their concerns, and I understand their comments about being so close. I remember that situation myself when less than a half a mile from a school and possibly being bused to another school. And what I don't understand, there's two things I don't understand in the presentation, is I don't understand why we're not supporting this. I'm sure there's a reason, but can you speak to why we're not supporting it? The other thing I feel like is missing is I'm used to the data that we have when we do a regular rezoning, where I can see how overcrowded is this school, how overcrowded is this school, what does the diversity look like, all of that data that I always rely on to help inform the decision. And we don't, I'm just seeing the presentation for the first time, but we don't have that.
So in targeted and technical rezonings, we don't offer up the data, but we do have, on the enrollment summary, the information of the, the permanent program capacity, how many are actually enrolled, the demographics. So that we have not historically presented that information. But if you have any direct, I can help you. The schools are diverse, demographically similar. They're the same. Summer Lake is slightly over capacity. Independence is over capacity. So we would just be moving students from one overcapacity school to another overcapacity school. The distance for the furthest person away is 1.4 from the house to Summer Lake and 3.3 from their house to Independence, because the lake, they can see it, but they can't have to go out and come around to it. I hope that helps answer
it helps a little bit, and I know that Member Gould represents this area and wants to speak, but Member Gould, with all due respect, I wanted to hear the staff's basis for their recommendation, which may or may not be the same, but from the standpoint of the capacity numbers, how much overcrowded is Independence compared to Summer Lake? And I asked that because if one school was grossly overcrowded and the other one was undercrowded, that would make sense to me that would filter into this. But and we've seen I've seen in emails that there's conflicting information coming out of OCPS about that data. So I've seen it in emails. That doesn't mean it's true, but I'd just like to know what the real data is.
Sure. So currently, in their current enrollment, Independence is at 848. Their permanent program capacity is 786. So
Okay.
they're slightly over. Summer Lake is 747, and their permanent program capacity is 751. Okay, so they are slightly under. Now, what's important is Independence over the course of the next 5 years is planned to grow to 945 students. And reason for that is we did a phased-in type of rezoning a couple of years ago, and that's going to cause an increase at Independence. Summer Lake kind of remains stable in the mid-700s, going slightly higher. So with these attendance zone options, Independence goes from 848 down to 788, but then it grows back up in 5 years to about 850. Okay, Summer Lake goes up to 864, and then it stays in those mid 800 range. Now that makes the assumption that everyone moves. Now this isn't the case with this option. This option is, people will have the option to grandfather if we were to do that.
Can I follow up on that? Based on what you just told me, it seems to me that the logical thing to do is to grant the rezoning. You're keeping the kids closer to their school, they're able to walk, we're reducing busing, and the future projections of these two schools would indicate that Independence is going to need relief. What am I missing?
Madam Chair, can I just also throw in there, it was okay initially with option 1, where it was just Overlook at the Hamlin and Sanctuary, but then we were notified afterwards that Overlook, Hamlin, and the Cove share a homeowners association and are one community. And therefore,
That's out of order, I'm sorry.
and then
We do want facts, but wait, if you would please. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Mrs. Neal.
No worries. Then what happened was we started receiving emails and comments from that community or that portion of the community that they wanted to be included. And then those numbers added to our rezoning, which made it hard. And that's basically was the larger factor in it. We didn't want to split the community.
Okay, just clarification on facts. Is that one HOA or not?
With three different communities, three completely different communities, and what I don't understand about that comment is there's two options, right, that were voted on.
Okay.
Where it's not all three together. So that's
I understand. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to open a debate. I just wanted to get clarification of, is it one HOA? It's three separate neighborhoods governed by one HOA.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. We actually called because when I received if that's okay, when I received the emails from members in the Cove, we actually reached out, and the gentleman, Joshua, confirmed that it is one homeowners. They share a clubhouse, a general meeting area between the neighborhoods.
Only the Cove and Overlook. Sanctuary has nothing to do with Overlook or the Cove.
Can you tell me the numbers that you just gave us of what this would do to capacity? Was that the option 2 or option 1? You just told us that if we made this change, Independence would be at 788 and Summer Lake would be at 864. Was that changing to option 1 or option 2?
That was option 1.
Okay. All right. Member Gould?
So, as you know, because of the lakes and the roadways out there, we do our best to keep communities together. And that did come in after. But I do want to address something before I get into my thoughts on this. We have a normal, which was reviewed during the beginning of this presentation, a normal communication process of notifying the communities that are involved in this. I had gotten some information, and so did our enrollment office, that some people did not get the information for whatever reason. So I posted on Facebook, and I posted the title and the description incorrectly. And I appreciate Ms. Staples for really drilling down in that with me and getting me corrected. But I did that late on a Friday, trying to get the communication out there because I knew that the survey was closing. That was not the only communication out there, and it wasn't intended to prejudice a community or only include one community. I went too fast, and that was an error, and it was an error. But as we started to look and I started to get the briefing on this and ask questions about the HOA, and we were looking at the roadways and looking at the numbers for and against from that community, I wanted to really understand, as we have in the past, in keeping communities together. And when we looked at those numbers, could you, Tommy, tell us with option 2 what those numbers would look like? Because while 788 is the beginning number, 850 is really the number I was focusing on for Independence, because that's
where we're going to be in a short period of time with that blowing back up. And then Summer Lake was going to be at 864 and kind of holding steady. And that was with option 1. So with option 2, what did that look like?
With option 2, Independence was brought down, went from down to 764, and they would rise up to about 845, whereas Summer Lake, they would get as high as 880 in 4 years out, and 870 in about 8 years out.
Yeah. So having the numbers are so close, and I completely agree about the busing and the walking. But when you start to do a deeper dive into the numbers and the future populations, and knowing how close the schools are in Horizon West, that's why I was looking at, does it even make sense, especially when the majority of the surveys are opposed in both options. So, I am open to any discussion on this, but that was what I was looking at when I was deliberating this for the last week and a half in my mind, and looking at where we are as growth continues in Horizon West.
Thank you. Member Front.
Okay, so a couple questions. Those that the ladies here, are you looking for option 1 or 2?
Either. We don't care.
Either one works for you.
Either one.
Got it. I mean, the thing that I see, the biggest thing would be busing. Why would we want any child on a bus for 40 minutes if we can avoid that? The numbers both look like that it would be helpful. So I think it would, I think we need to listen to the parents who are here who are in favor. I don't see, there's one that is, you guys were in opposing. I don't know.
If you look at your BoardDocs.
Right, but then we look at that, and I see what they're saying too. If we're looking at those numbers, to me don't mean as much, because I feel like we really need to be looking at the families who their children are the one who is moving. I don't think families who are saying, hey, your kids are coming into my community, I don't want you in my school. I don't know that we should really be looking at if they're in support or oppose. I think we really need to be looking at the families who are here, who say, my child is the one who is having to move schools. If it's my child and, we're in this community, I don't know, I'm more in support of the families moving into Summer Lake, and then also going into, is it Hamlin Middle School? I think that sounds like it not Hamlin Middle.
Correct. They're
Summer
not
Lake Elementary.
But it is affecting the middle school, and we're moving those kids away from the school too, but it's not Hamlin. It's Bridgewater Middle School.
Got it.
That we're taking them from.
We're taking them from Bridgewater to Hamlin.
To Hamlin.
Right,
yes.
right. So I think that seems more, it's a smoother transition. It makes more sense. The numbers, they both are close, but it makes more sense. To me, I think I'm in favor of making sure that kids don't have to be on a bus for 40 minutes and they can walk to school. It makes a lot more sense.
Thank you, Ms. Ferrant. A follow-up question on the input that you got. So the number of people that were opposed to option 1 on the elementary school versus support, what were those numbers again?
So for option 1, there were 50 in support and 67 opposed.
Okay, and how many total students would be impacted outside of the school now? How many students coming from Overlook, Hamlin, and the sanctuary would be? What's that total number? I think it was like 176, 100 and.
Correct, 100 and, let me give you the exact. Elementary, it was 100.
146,
Okay.
correct? Okay,
Yes,
so you
ma'am.
got 146. How many are in this school right now? Oh, we know that. We've got 751. 747, thank you. So by my way of looking at this, we've polled or surveyed two different groups. One group is 146, of which 50 are in support. We're assuming that they're all from there. I mean, I did actually play around with those numbers. They're not all from there. Some of them are actually from Summer Lake, some in Overlook are against it. But altogether, you've got 146 wanting, asking for this. 50 of them responded positively. You've got 747 in the school. That's a bigger population, and you've only got 67. You have the percentage of people that are against it, that are in the school, that were able to respond, is substantially smaller than the percentage of students that have an opportunity to move in and responded. So to do a one-on-one correlation does not make sense when you're polling 146 versus 750. That's just, I don't understand the logic behind how you can compare those two numbers without recognizing that your base is fundamentally different. And so for that reason, and for the fact that the busing situation doesn't make any sense to me, I would support 1 or 2 over the status quo. And I will also tell you that Hunters Creek has a master homeowners association, but Hunters Creek is a huge, huge community. And I can't remember if they're all in one school right now, but I know at one point they weren't. And I know keeping neighborhoods together is important, but I don't know that the...
Will you have crossing guards for people?
Okay, here's the way this works. I am so sorry to everybody who wants to talk now. You get one chance, and it's when we call you up. And then it's really frustrating. Believe it or not, I've been in your shoes, and I hate being in your shoes because it's very frustrating to not be able to get back up. But those are the rules that we live by right now. So anyway, that's my input on this. Member Gould. I'm sorry. I
want new mics.
I got you here.
I definitely want new mics. And my button here's not working and this one's not working. Thank you, Chair, for that perspective and really highlighting that. And thank you, Member Ferrant, too, for your thoughtfulness. I'm always thoughtful about the amount of portables on the campuses, and having, really lived through the last 10 years with Bridgewater, where we've taken up every square inch at one point and there's been no play fields. And I don't like putting kids on buses long time either, and all of those things. But if we went with option 1, it helps to mitigate that balance a little bit better than option 2. I think that may distress some of the families that wanted to be considered coming in. It would provide a little bit of relief for independents, and maybe not overwhelm Summer Lake completely. But, that's the other thing. Having so many of our elementary, I still have trauma from Sunset Park, and the amount of portables we had to put there. And it was the first time we were looking at stackable portables and what it was like in a thunderstorm. I mean, it's a lot. It's not just the buses and the walking to consider when you're looking at programming and a quality education. Because of the densities we have in Horizon West and because of the way the numbers are folding out, I would be in favor of moving option 1 forward versus option 2 to try to keep it as even as possible. I know that won't make some people happy, but unfortunately it's impossible until we're completely done and kind of settle the dust in Horizon West in particular to get it right. I mean, some schools we've had to rezone 3 times because of growth, moving, backfill, and we have the same number of elementary kids even though we had the same number of houses. So you just don't see that generational change the way we have in other points, at least in my district. So it hasn't gotten there yet, because it will, but I don't know that I'll still be alive. So I would be in favor of relooking and moving forward option 1 and getting community input again on that as we move forward into a board meeting to try to balance the scales a little bit between the 2 schools.
Ms. Enval, if we do that, we would still be moving to a public hearing, correct? All right. Well, this would be time for board members to weigh in if they have concerns about option 1. Vice Chair.
I agree with the idea of moving option 1. It's like what Member Gould said. You've got 2 problems. You've got overcrowded and you've got busing. The overcrowding, when I look at option 1, we're talking about putting the overcrowding that's at Independence, it's almost a clean sweep, doing it to Summer Lake. So it's, I don't see any solution there. I mean, it's going to be, one of them's going to be overcrowded either way. But the busing situation is a serious issue that we need help with. We've got to figure something out. And I've been talking to Ms. Neal and the superintendent about looking at more of our schools and more zones where we've got kids that are busing out of within the 2-mile radius to other schools so that we can reduce our routes. And that's something that I really think we have to look at. And I know that pulls in a whole nother set of problems because we have to be careful about our school balances. But when you've got kids that are missing 1 and 2 periods every day because the buses are late or they're standing outside not getting picked up in the dark, and it is just such a problem that we have to figure out some kind of solution for. So I would be in favor of moving forward option 1 as well.
Thank you, Member Byrd. Let me offer one other suggestion moving forward. I know that we don't normally or haven't historically had the data that shows overcrowding, undercrowding, and projections for targeted rezonings. I didn't remember that, but you pointed that out. I think that would be very helpful. Which one is not working? It's not letting you cue in?
None of the queuing buttons are not working.
I swear I didn't do it. See that man down there? His name is Caesar. I'm going to blame it on him. Okay, and this is one example because when you went through the growth projections, what I heard, but I don't have it written down and couldn't write it down fast enough, is that Independence is going to have more growth than Summer Lake. Knowing that, even though we're talking about portables today, if you tell me that the projection is there's going to be more and more portables in Independence, then if I were looking at 3 years, 5 years down the road, I would make a different decision, and I think us having that data in front of us would be helpful moving forward. Sometimes it's probably not going to make a difference. In this particular case, it's influencing my evaluation. And I also want to make a comment. I hope that the things that I've heard about any sort of prejudice or discrimination, I hope that that is not what is meant by whenever I hear something, I know there's multiple sides to the story. If there's 3 people, there's probably 5 sides to the story. I just feel very, very strongly that wherever our children go to school, that they need to be welcome by everybody. And I hope, I have believed in my heart for the last at least 10 or 15 years now, that that's the community we have created and we are becoming. And I hope that's the community we will continue to become. I saw the reaction of this community with Pulse, and it changed my whole perspective of where we live, how accepting people were of each other, even when they didn't understand each other. And I hope and pray that whatever decision we make, that our children will be welcome in whatever school they are in, and they will prosper, and they will survive, and they will thrive. So with that, let me call on Member Felder.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd like to thank the group, Stacy Neal and her group, with this zoning, and they've been very diligent in trying to show us all of the options. But I, too, understand whenever I hear about discrimination, a lot of times it's used, well, the word racism sometimes is used, I think, in a way where people really talking about placism, not necessarily racism, people's economic experiences, and they see it as that, but not to eradicate that it's not real. I lived through it, and I'm yet living in it. However, that area is a progressively growing area, and I would imagine in 3 to 5 years, we're going to be back again trying to look at renovations of a building or getting another school. But certainly, one thing I believe about this board and OCPS, that we want to do the best for our children and our communities. And certainly, everybody in America is an immigrant. The Native Americans were here first. So we're all immigrants, okay? However, I just hope that one of the things that I find consolation in education, that it is a great equalizer. It is. And I think at this board, we try to stress that. And I believe that we're going to try to do the best we can in terms of how we deal with this zoning, because the reality of not having enough bus drivers, that's real. We have children right now in middle school. They will not leave today until 5:30 because the buses have to get there. So we're trying to navigate through this very difficult situation. So I want to just kind of say to you that you have a board of women here that truly do understand, and we empathize, and we're going to do our best, and we have been doing our best to try to make sure equity is there. So, Stacy, and your group, your work, I see how difficult it is, because you met with all of you have met with each of us individually and gone through all of this. So we see the work and the options, and I kind of contend with Board Member Byrd in terms of the choice, because we just have to, what we have is in front of us, and we have to do the best we can, because I don't think any of us like portables. But as this area grows and as Orlando grows, these are things we have to consider. So I just want to share that with you and let you know that it's my hope, as Chair Jacobs said, that none of you would ever experience that kind of discrimination. This is not good. It's not a good look for America, and it's not a good look for Orange County. And so I just want you to understand that we do empathize, and thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. All right. Unless there's any consternation, we are not taking a vote here today. This is the board's opportunity to give some direction in terms of what gets, what gets moved forward to a public hearing, but no final decision is rendered. Member Gould.
Correct. So just to reiterate, we're going to recommend that we move the option 1 forward to the public hearing. And again, I've already apologized for my misrepresenting the posting, but any of that caused conflict, I hope it truly was not discrimination, that it was emotional conflict, which we have every single time we do a rezoning, every single time. Even when it's clear cut, because the roads work right. I think I've only had one of those. The roads work right, the lakes work right, the neighborhoods work right, the balance works right. there is an emotional charge anytime any of us want to move our children. I had it when I was moving my children because ground zero was Windermere Elementary. So all these schools are really relief of ultimately Windermere Elementary as we grew west. The same at Gotha. We had the same things. But I have seen it time and again, and I've opened 15 schools in the last 10 years. So it is the toughest thing. Anything I can do to help open up those conversations, heal any wounds that were caused, I am happy to come, and that's what I am here to do, is to serve and admit my faux pas, and also take the brunt of anything, because I don't want it to be between neighbor and neighbor. So please let me know in any way that I can help to rebridge friendships or associations, if there is a way for me to do that. And I also want to thank Stacy and the whole team, because we talk about numbers a lot and do a lot of what if scenarios when we're going through this to try to come up with the best solutions. And sometimes it's not till we get here and we get fresh perspectives and really get to look at it in the whole that we can see the horizon clearly. So thank you all for your input, and thanks for your discussion.
Thank you, Member Golden. Thank you for that reassurance and that explanation. I know, I think it goes a long way, and I appreciate you offering your support. So I also, we're going to move on to the next one. Before we do, I want to figure out what's going on with the recognition system here. So if we just take a pause, I'm going to clear the deck. Ms. Emval, okay, everybody just try to push your button, and let me just see. Okay, what's going on?
Mine won't go off.
Okay.
I went on, I went on.
It won't go off. It won't go off.
Okay. There's worse things than not being able to get out of the queue, right?
Just there forever.
A former board member would tell you there's worse things, yes. Okay. All right, let's do them one at a time. Amy? Karen, you're there. Council, you're there. Superintendent? You're there. Can you get off? Okay. Vice Chair?
I'm there.
I know, you're not following directions. I'm trying to do them one at a time. Thank goodness we're not in charge of your job, huh? Okay. Vice Chair, you got yourself on and off good. Member Casterdental? You can't get off, right? You're not? Okay, let me try again. See if you can get on.
Yeah, it's little.
No, it's not changing. Okay, so I need to make sure I'm looking out for you. Member Felder? You're getting on at least?
I'm on.
Okay. Member Gould? We're having problems with you. You're iffy. Member Casterdental is iffy. Not, that doesn't sound good. Member Farran? Good. And Member Salamanca? Good. Okay.
Taking a break for spring.
Okay, I'm going to try to keep my eye on the two of y'all, but if not, nudge me. Or okay? Thank you. We're ready to move on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will now move to the rezoning of Site 129M SE-2. That's the relief school for Lake Nona Middle.
Am I going to start? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm going to do our growth map. Next one. Okay. All right. To start off with, I want to orient you with this map. The colored areas shown here will be included on the growth maps, and they are projects in our residential database. Currently, we maintain the status of about 600 residential projects district-wide that are either planned, platting, which means they're getting ready to start, or underway. We are in the southeast part of the county. This has been a fast-growing area for a while, with about 12,000 new students in the past 15 years. The district has built 8 new relief schools so far in that same time frame. We have a relief school site for Innovation Middle School, which is 56 MSE2 in our 10-year plan, which is up there. Right now, we're going to discuss 129 MSE2, which is the relief school for Lake Nona Middle. It is in the South Lake Nona. It is in South Lake Nona, which is undergoing construction of 1,612 units in the eastern portion. The western portion is going to start in a couple years and will be another 2,580 units. West of this, we have approved projects up and down Boggy Creek Road for over 3,000 residential units. Lake Nona has approved their mixed-use district, which is about 6,000 high-rise units being built over a 40-year timeline. Historically, high-rises generate very few students for us, but we will be keeping an eye on this as they get built. On the east, Eagle Creek has about 400 units left to be built, and we do have some approved projects south of Eagle Creek. Now, Renata will present the options for 129 MSE2.
Good evening. I'm Renata Paropce, and I will present options for the Relief School 129 MSE2. The new school will open in August 2024. We have 6 options to present today. Let us look at our first option. The green lines represent current middle school zones. The colored areas are the new proposed zones. The south side of the map is the Osceola County line. Option 1 involves Lake Nona Middle School and South Creek Middle School. The yellow area is the proposed new school. The green area is the proposed Lake Nona Middle School, and the proposed South Creek Middle School is in purple. For each school, a text box includes the school's name, permanent program capacity, number of students currently residing in the proposed zone, and projected number of students when school opens. The yellow text comment is for the relief school. The permanent program capacity is 1215, the proposed resides is 594, and the projected number of students for the 2024 school year is between 800 and 840. The green box is for Lake Nona Middle School with the permanent program capacity of 1240. Proposed number of students residing in the zone is 1417, and the projections for 2024 is between 1230 and 1270. And the purple text box is for South Creek Middle School. Permanent program capacity is 1132. Number of students residing in the zone is 1326, and the projections for 2024 are between 1100 and 1140. A data table accompanies each option. And there is the table for option 1. The first column in the table shows the school's capacity. The second one is enrollment as of October 17, 2022. And the next is the number of students residing in the current zone. Then the number of students in the proposed zone with the demographic breakdown. Next comes the current and proposed percentage of farms, free and reduced meals, ESE, exception student education, and ELL, English language learners. If we look at Lake Nona Middle School, the school's program capacity is 1240. The school's enrollment for October 17, 2020 is 1718, with 79 being white, 10% black, and 11% other. 42% non-Hispanic, and 58 Hispanic. Number of students residing in the current zone is 1898. 1417 students reside in the proposed zone, with 79% being white, 11% black, and 10% other. 43% non-Hispanic, and 57 Hispanic. The projected number of students residing in the zone for 2024 and 25 the school year, 2024-25 school year is between 1230 and 1270. Current farms is 28% and proposed 29%. ESE current is 9% and proposed 10, and current and proposed ELL is 10%. I will give you a moment to review the remaining numbers. Option
Could
2.
you bring the mic a little, pull it up a little bit? It's very hard to hear you. Thank you.
Option 2, as option 1, also involves Lake Nona Middle School and South Creek Middle School. Option 1 and option 2 differ in the southern part of Lake Nona Middle School. In option 2, southern part of Laureate Park community is included in the new school zone. There is a zoomed-in map to see the dividing line. Tavistock Lakes Boulevard and Bryant Avenue are the dividing lines. And there's the table for option 2. I will give you a moment to look at the numbers. Option 3. Option 3 also includes Lake Nona Middle School and South Creek Middle School. In this option, the southern portion of Laureate Park community and the southern portion of Eagle Creek are included in the new school zone. There is a zoomed-in map to see the dividing line on the Eagle Creek portion of the zone. And there's the table for option 3. Please take a look at the numbers. The following 3 options are built on option 1 through 3 with the addition of Odyssey Middle School and Innovation Middle School. So if you take a look at option 4, it is built on option 1. The southern portion of the zone remains the same. Eagle Creek remains in the new zone, and Laureate Park community stays in Lake Nona Middle School. The difference is that Odyssey Middle School and Innovation Middle School are now part of the rezoning. The northern part of Lake Nona Middle School and Innovation Middle School are moved to Odyssey Middle School. And there is the zoomed slide of the dividing line for Odyssey Middle School. And table for option 4. Please take a look at the numbers. Option 5 is built on option 2, where the southern portion of Laureate Park is included in the new school zone. Odyssey Middle School and Innovation Middle School are added to the rezoning in the northern part of the zone. And there is the table for option 5. Please take a look at the numbers. Option 6 is built on option 3, where the southern portion of Laureate Park community and the southern portion of Eagle Creek are included in the new school zone. Odyssey Middle School and Innovation Middle School are added to the rezoning in the northern part of the zone. And there's the table. And we have options overview by with maps. You can see option 1 and option 4, option 2, and below is option 5, and option 3, and below is option 6. And the overview of the tables next to each other, all the 6 options. We received input from the community, and this is the summary. Option 1, supported by 508 families and opposed by 239. Option 2, supported by 50 families and opposed by 697. Option 3, supported by 31 families and opposed by 716. Option 4, supported by 489 families and opposed by 258. Option 5, supported by 39 families and opposed by 708. And option 6, supported by 224 families and opposed by 523. And superintendent staff recommendation is option 4, along with the table.
Okay.
And this concludes my presentation, Dr. Vasquez.
Thank you. Ms. Semple, how many speakers do we have? All right. And the speaker is? Yes, please.
Your first or only person speaker about this rezoning is Andres Echeverry.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you guys hear me okay? All right. All right. My name is Andres Echeverry, or Andres Echeverry. I represent a community in Eagle Creek North, to be very clear. We have been mobilized for about 6 months. There's been a very strong push within our community to try to remain in Lake Nona Middle. It's across the street from our community, and we're being asked to basically, or at least last fall, we were being asked to move all of us to the new school that is about a mile further away. The best option that we were given in this new round is option 6, and we've tried to do our best to mobilize our community in support for option 6, and I'm going to give you the reasons why. The first one is, of course, is the closest, for those of us who are in Eagle Creek North. Eagle Creek is an enormous development, 2 miles long from the north to the southern part. No busing will be offered. We all know there's a busing crisis, and we have a huge close gated community, so no busing will be offered. Most of our kids in Eagle Creek North would be asked to travel about 7 miles each day to and from, to go and come back to the new middle school with no buses, which will put essentially a lot of traffic into a single road that we have going up and down our community, Muir Parkway. And we are asking to please split our community in half, allow us on the north to stay in Lake Nona Middle to maximize the number of walkers and bikers that we can send to the middle school, to Lake Nona Middle School, and allow the southern part of our community to go to the new middle school. To be very clear, we know that we are in the minority even within our community, but we tried our best to mobilize our votes, and you can see that in the results. We did an internal polling. We created a Facebook group, and I'm down to a minute. We created a Facebook group 6 months ago. All the communities there or that cares about this. We did an internal polling about 3 weeks ago, and by a 6-to-1 margin, according to our counts, Eagle Creek North favors to stay in Lake Nona Middle. Okay, we don't want to drive our kids to the new school. No buses will be offered. We don't want the traffic that this is going to generate twice a day in rush hour traffic. So we favor staying to the school that is closest to us, which is somewhat similar to. Now, we understand we're a minority. There's a whole bunch of people around us that want us to go to the other school, but we don't want to. And I think that will be reflected in your data. Our homes were built all 2005, or most of them 2005 to 2008. We were here and we founded Lake Nona Middle when it started. It is across the street from us. And we are not part of this later development that has pushed all these things. So we don't appreciate getting a school that we built from the ground up torn from us. I think that's all I have to say. So I yield 1 second.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. All right, no other speakers? Okay, comments from board members. Member Gould, you're pressed, not really? That's okay, thank you. Okay. Member Felder, did you? No? You just popping up? Oh, now we've gone in reverse. Oh. Member Salamanca, you're recognized.
No other board members want to speak to this? Okay. This has been a very, very long journey for me. As you know, I just joined this board, and in a way, I inherited both the high school and the middle school rezoning. In this rezoning in particular, I worked really closely with student enrollment on getting very creative on the numbers, including considering Odyssey Middle School. This is when Lake Nona Middle School was built, a lot of it was to relieve Odyssey Middle. What you see in Odyssey Middle is a lot of students basically drive past their middle school in their neighborhood to go to Lake Nona Middle. And that's a whole situation on busing that doesn't make a lot of sense. And so we played around with those numbers to get a sense of how much more room it would give us to hear out the Eagle Creek community. The Eagle Creek community organized a lot before I was in office and continued to do it. I've worked really closely with them and kind of encouraged the support across the different neighborhoods, Lower Park and Eagle Creek combined. The two options that leave Eagle Creek in Lake Nona Middle School are option 3 and 6. If you look at this. Option 3 had very strong opposition. I think if we put the opposition numbers, I don't know if we could pull that one up. There wasn't enough real support there for me to kind of work through that. So my next step was to look at option 6 for hearing out the Eagle Creek community, and that was a little bit more balanced than the other one. And so what I looked at was the opposing, that is still the majority, and to Chair's concern on, is the right community being heard, right? I didn't want to go into the 522 and look at only Lower Park voting against Eagle Creek. And unfortunately, that was not the case. There was a decent amount of votes from the Eagle Creek community themselves opposing option 6. And it was, I didn't crunch the number by number on how equal it was, but it was more equal than not. And so it pains me because I've been working with this community closely. I've tried absolutely everything I can, but I do have to agree with the superintendent and the student enrollment office. Both option 3 and option 6, if we pull those numbers on actual student enrollment, can we bring the summary graph? Both option 3 and option 6 have.
Till we get the right graph or table. No.
Now, there was one that was a summary chart. There we go. So option 3 and option 6, a couple of things I will point out. The relief school, 129 on future enrollment, is barely half. And the Lake Nona Middle School future enrollment goes up to 1,500 fairly quickly after that, whose capacity is 1,200. Option 6 is similar. We get to the relief school not being fully relief, and Lake Nona Middle being, once again, fairly close, if not over capacity. So I want to tell my community I listened, and I tried absolutely everything. And I know it's not the result that, as we talked about, rezoning is tough on everyone, and not everyone's going to be happy with this. And unfortunately, I do have to, I understand where student enrollment and the superintendent are coming from on the recommendation, and I support it as well.
Option 4.
Option 4.
Number 4 on.
It's definitely hard. There's so many, I don't feel like there's any one that's clearly makes sense. Can I see those numbers one more time? I'm sorry.
Go back to the table.
We're keeping you busy tonight.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Stacy. And we're not wanting to really split, are we wanting to just keep Odyssey out of it? Is that why we're not? Because, if I look at what's going to relieve the most, 2 and 5 relieve the most, but then I guess we'd have to look at what was the opposing and not. Yeah. Just trying to look at every option, I guess. Go ahead.
I'm happy to do this, but Stacy, I'll also defer to you. Odyssey's current numbers are a couple hundred below capacity currently, as is. That's the 1,135, and the numbers are kind of closer to 900. And I think, Tommy, maybe you back me up on demographics. This is aging as well.
You're correct. Just to clarify on the number of Odyssey, those are the 900's the actual residing kids in Odyssey zone. The actual enrollment at Odyssey is actually in the 700s. So it's quite a big difference between that and the 1135.
So, and then just to clarify, that means we're moving option 4 up for public input. This is not a vote. This means that we go out and get feedback. So I'm still open to get public feedback in terms of the community, right? But this is the recommendation that I'm agreeing with.
And just for clarification of the process, we're not taking a vote. That's correct. It's not a final decision. But whatever we move forward with will be the only thing we can vote on at the public hearing. If there isn't support at the public hearing by the majority of the board members, then we'll come back and I don't know that I'd say start over, but at least revisit the options in front of us if we don't have a majority vote for the option that proceeds forward.
Correct.
Can I ask one question? Just of staff, between 4 and 5, can you walk me through the analysis between 4 and 5? Why 4 over 5?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's on. I'm sorry, can you
4 and 5.
clarify what do you mean, like the difference, or
No,
why
so
we chose 4 over 5?
Yeah.
So one of the reasons is, well, option 4, we have an elementary school that's slated to come online in the near future, directly next to or on the same property as 129. So we did not want to we're looking at future, remember, projections, so we're not wanting to overcrowd the elementary before time and have to move kids back and forth. So that's one of the reasons. We did not want to break feeder patterns or anything like that right now, because all of Eagle Creek goes to Eagle Creek Elementary, and then they would move forward to the new middle school. So they would have a continuous flow in a feeder pattern. So those were our main reasons. And of course, the numbers were good. And if you don't mind, can I just comment quickly on the bus? So Eagle Creek is a gated community, so therefore the bus, there's not an agreement for the bus to go into the community. That's the reason for the transportation issue.
And just to clarify, when you say there's not an agreement, to my knowledge, the district doesn't pick up students in gated communities.
Correct. There is a ESE situation, but not for traditional students.
Okay, one voice at a time.
Sorry. No, there is a ESE bus that does pick up in the community. However, for the non-ESE students, there is not a bus.
Right.
Madam Chair, if I could jump on that, it's because it's a gated community, so those are private roads.
Yes, and statutorily, we have to pick up at the nearest public.
Right. So we used to have,
location.
and I think we still have some agreements with some of the HOAs that allow us to go into the community, but they have to specifically agree to, there's gates issues, there's all sorts of things, but we have to have the HOA's permission to go in, and some HOAs have chosen not to have that permission.
So they're outside, the kids who get picked up.
I don't know about this particular school.
So because from their gate to Luminary, where the new school is located, is within 2 miles.
Member Salamanca, would you like to be recognized? Thank you.
Eagle Creek is a very, very large community. It is not like gated and then you could easily, if you go to the deepest parts of Eagle Creek, be another 2 miles in there. So if you're a student in the far back in the north or in the south, you're definitely not within the 2 mile range and you're not getting bused. So I do hope as a district we can maybe reconsider talking to HOA at Eagle Creek and opening that conversation up. I would be very, very willing to go there and be the person that has that conversation with a community meeting. I don't know if the HOA is going to be responsible because they haven't been responsive to that request before, but I'm supportive of it. And I do think that there's some students that are going to be far.
All right, thank you. Member Gould, I think you wanted to be recognized.
Well, I'll go for it while it's working.
Yeah.
I am in support of the superintendent's and the board members, Salamanca's proposal. And I will say that I know there are several gated communities in my district that have allowed school buses in the past. And it has always worked out really well. So I would encourage, that community to maybe take a look at some of the others that have done so, including some of the most high net worth neighborhoods in the county. So it's definitely we're taking a look at to make it easier on the kids.
Thank you, Member Gould. All right, without any further input from the board, I think we have clear direction on what to schedule for our public hearing. Dr. Vasquez.
We are ready for the last rezoning of the evening, and that is the relief school for Lake Nona High School, Site 50.
Hello. Okay, here we are in the southeast part of the county again. The area around the new high school is vast and will be growing on a timeline well beyond 10 years. The major projects in the vicinity of 50 HSE2 includes Story Park, which has about 2,000 units left to construct. The school itself is located in Meridian Parks, which is an approved development of 6,500 units. And starting in about 5 years is Sunbridge, which is a development approved for 7,304 units. Also in the vicinity, but to the north in the colonial zone, is a project called Everby, which is 3,300 units, expandable to 4,300 units. And just to give a frame of reference, 4,300 units generates about 500 high school students using our student generation rates. So I want to note a couple of things. One, you see the location of the two schools. Both schools have growth around their facilities. 50, after opening, will continue to grow beyond 10 years. Also, Lake Nona High School's enrollment will continue to grow after they're relieved as well. The other point I want to make is that 50, HSE2, will be our new prototype high school, which is larger than what we've built in the past. They'll have a capacity of 3,241 students. Now I'll hand over the mic to Dr. Westerman, who will go over our attendance zone options for the high school.
Hi, good evening. I'm Andy Westerman. I'll present the options for the relief school, 50 HSE2. The new school opened in August 2024, and we have 3 options to review. The blue lines are the current high school zones. And the bottom is the Osceola County line. The area in yellow is the proposed new school zone for 50 HSE2, and the map also includes Lake Nona High School in purple as the proposed future zone. For each school, the comment bubble contains the information such as the school's permanent program capacity, or PPC, the proposed resides for the option presented, and the projected resides for the 2024 and 2025 school years. The 2024 school year will only have grades 9 through 11 at the new relief school, while in the 2025 school year it will have its first senior class. Starting with the new school, the PPC is 3241, the proposed resides is 2542, and projected for the 2024 school year is 1825 to 1875, and for the 2025 school year is 2615 to 2665. That's the first year for seniors. Lake Nona High School has a PPC of 2807 with a proposed resides of 2340 and projections for the 2024 school year of 2915 to 2965 and the 2025 school year of 2230 to 2280. It drops because it doesn't have that double senior class. That senior class goes to the next school. Here's the table showing the effect of creating this zone for option 1. As a reminder, the first column shows each of the school's permanent program capacity, or PPC, and again, that's 3241 for the new school and 2807 for Lake Nona High School. I'll give everyone a moment to review the numbers. On to option 2. The blue lines again are the current high school zones. And these are the same schools. However, in this option, an area south of 528 would also go to the new school. Starting with the new school, the proposed resides is 3089, and projected enrollment for the 2024 school year is 2185 to 2235. and 3090 to 3140 for the 2025 school year. Lake Nona High School has a proposed resides of 1793, and for the 2024 school year, an enrollment of 2555 to 2605, and 1755 to 1805 for the 2025 school year. The table shows the effect of creating these zones for option 2. The first column shows, again, each of the school's permanent program capacity. That's 3241 for the new school and 2807 for Lake Nona High School. I'll give everyone a moment to review these numbers. All right, on to option 3. Again, the same schools, but this option has an area north of 528 that would remain in the Lake Nona High School zone. And this follows the current school zones for Innovation and Lake Nona Middle Schools. Starting with the new school, the proposed resides is 2282, and projected enrollment for the 2024 school year is 1665 to 1715, and 2395 to 2445 for the 2025 school year. Lake Nona High School has a proposed resides of 2600, and enrollment for the 2024 school year of 3075 to 3125, and 2445 to 2495 for the 2025 school year. The table shows the effect of creating these zones for option 3. Again, except for the PPC, the numbers change for both 50 HSE2 and Lake Nona High School. I'll give everyone a moment to review these numbers. This map shows the 3 options side by side to see the zones and the areas affected by the different options. And finally, this data table shows the broad numbers of students residing currently and the projected number of students for the 2024 and 2025 school years for each of the 3 options. Please recall that in 2024, the new school will only have grades 9 through 11. I'll give everyone a moment to look at these numbers. The community input shows for option 1, 256 in support, 111 oppose. For option 2, 41 in support, 326 oppose. And for option 3, 225 in support, 142 oppose. The superintendent staff recommendation is option 1. Here's the table again showing the numbers for option 1. This concludes my presentation for 50H SE2. Dr. Vasquez.
Any public comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, you have 2. Your first public speaker would be John Daly.
Welcome, sir.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me this evening, allowing me to speak. John Daly, I'm here representing Vista Lakes Community Association. I am the president of the association. We have 14 neighborhoods in one community with one HOA as the master. Our SunBiz number is 003314, and I'm listed as a president. So I'm representing all of the homeowners there. I want to thank you for what you do. I've been a public servant for 40 years. I know how challenging the work it is that you're doing and the staff, but I also know that getting stakeholder input and transparency are important to good policy making. So what I'd like to do is to share with you a couple things. First off, you saw that last slide of 1 and 3. What it doesn't share are the comments that were sent in by our residents, with the caveat that we support 1 and 3, with the assumption that parts of Vista Lakes, our community, are included in the new high school zoning. If we roll back to October of this past year, there were 4 proposals put forth by the staff that were under consideration for a November meeting, and 75% of those included Vista Lakes as part of one of those three out of those 4 options. Here we roll forward to a few months later, and suddenly none of our neighborhoods are included. So I think one of the questions you need to ask the staff is, why is that happening? The second thing that we have to ask the staff, I think, in this case is, could we absorb some of the neighborhoods in the new school with the projections that we see there? The answer you should get from that is yes. The last thing you should ask is, how engaged has our community been with the school board and the school staff over the last several years, and I'll say it's been extensive. In fact, our first meeting with the staff occurred 3 years ago this week with the Director of Student Enrollment and their staff, with a meeting to talk about ways that we can actually collaborate with Orange County Public Schools to support both our elementary school that's in our neighborhood, our middle school in our neighborhood, and the rezoning options that are going to be considered here in this next session. One of the things that we learned at the community meeting was that you have the option tonight to make changes to these options. And I encourage you to make the one change that we are looking for, and which are caveated in all the comments for the overwhelming votes of yes on 1 and 3. And that is to add some of the neighborhoods from Vista Lakes in the new school. We have a natural 4-lane highway barrier between our neighborhoods to the south and to the north. We have a committee that has looked at this that represents all parts of the community, and we have 14 elected neighborhood representatives that gave input on what's the best for us as residents, and we feel the best for us in our community is to send portions of our neighborhoods to the new school and allow the others to remain in Colonial as designed. Unfortunately, none of those are an option that you're looking at tonight, and I think we need an answer as to why. One of the things we got for feedback is that it was a unilateral decision by the staff, I don't know, by board, I don't know, but I think we deserve an answer as to why we went from 75% of the options that included Vista Lakes to 0%. I still have a minute left, or did I go over?
Whoa.
I'm sorry?
As the representative, actually, our policy gives you 5 minutes. So
I have 2 more
that
minutes.
explains
Excellent.
it. Yes.
So
Sorry.
I will make a couple other points. We'll have some other residents, at least one, and others trying to get here. We specifically wanted to keep this small tonight because I think our information's been pretty clear. I think each of you have probably received some emails from our leaders of our community, which are the neighborhood representatives, the committee members, and the board members. So again, I'm here as an individual representing that group of 2,200 homeowners. Again, 14 distinct neighborhoods with a natural barrier of Lee Vista Boulevard, which was the original barrier used with the pre-options from back in October, November. We do want to thank the staff and the board for doing one thing for us. Many of our homeowners were actually still standing in water when you put out the request for information and getting feedback. We went to the staff saying, hey, you don't understand the impact of our community. We are the worst hit neighborhood in East Orlando in District 1 for the city. And many of our residents could get out of their houses for 2 weeks. The last thing on their mind was to talk about and consider rezoning. So we were thankful and appreciative based on the staff's input to defer this decision. What we didn't expect is a deferral to result in something that was detrimental to our neighborhood. So I'll leave the last 42 seconds for me to take a breath. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Madam Chair, you have one more public speaker.
I'm sorry.
You have one more. Yep.
I was thinking we just had one. Go.
Yep, one more. Your last public speaker would be, I think it says Pavel Shipala.
Hello, thanks for letting me speak today.
Welcome.
Can you hear me okay? I'm not
Yes.
sure. Okay. So I'm a parent in one of those 4 communities that are south of Vista Lakes with that natural divide. When we first moved to the community, I knew that we had elementary and middle school covered. They were nearby. They were community schools. They felt all integrated. And then I was concerned about Colonial High. I've driven there before. I volunteered there for Force Robotics as an engineer. I know that school, but I knew that we'd have to either maybe move or consider what's better, because that drive is not a good drive from where we're at. So as time went on, I saw the proposal at the end of last year. I saw that there were 75% of those options for 3 out of the 4 that had those 4 natural divide neighborhoods included. It was an exciting thing. I commented on it, and then it's all gone. It's half the drive. It's the same argument people are making, putting kids on buses unnecessarily. Our kids are already not getting enough sleep. Having them be even more exhausted is just when it can be solved. I mean, it's not a lot of space to cover with the extra margin that's there. Natural divide, the community is getting behind this concept, like, hey, this is reasonable. Let's figure out what happened. Why didn't we? Why did this change? And so with my wife and I, we're both working full time. It's reasonable for me to still drive my kid to the new school. It wouldn't work out for going to Colonial. It would impact us dramatically as a family, and I know others will be impacted as well. I do not want to leave the community. It's an amazing community, and I just think that it'll have a very negative impact.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Member Gould, I don't know if you wanted to be recognized. Okay, go ahead, please.
I had a couple questions about the population growth that you were indicating in Lake Nona. I know that you said that would continue to grow too, student population. Can you tell me what it looks like beyond 25 for that?
Okay, I'm going to give you Lake Nona's projection without any relief, okay?
Okay.
So Lake Nona High School, currently they have 4,365. Next year I have them projected at 4,605. 5 years out, I have them at 5,249. That's if we didn't open up any high school. And by the time you get to year 10, we're over 6,000 students. Now, in the option that we are, the staff's recommended option, on the year, we're going to do the second year after it's opening,
Right.
show the full grade levels. 2,639 is the 50. Lake Nona is 2,255. By the time you get out to year 10, 50 is all the way up to 3,519. Lake Nona is up to 2,817, which aligns with its little over its capacity.
Is based on what you just said, they won't need another high school site even with all those units coming in?
Lake Nona
Won't,
but 50
Yeah.
is 3,519, so
Yeah.
they'll be over capacity.
So is
10
there
years.
already some land that has been banked for a potential
Not for a new high school, no.
Okay. Having been through that before, I would highly recommend that is something that you take a look at as you move forward. Okay, thank you. That helps this process in my head. Thanks.
Can you all put back up the comparison chart? Thank you. And I did receive a lot of emails similar to, with the same questions that we heard from the two speakers. So can you explain to the board why we were looking at options that included Lake Vista and we are now not?
So initially, Everby, the community that Tommy spoke on, was not in the near future. So we did take a look at bringing that portion into the new school. However, after we started the rezone and we were notified and it was brought to our attention about the homeowners association and the communities or neighborhoods, and then we found out, because we have been contacted through development for Everby, that all of that was coming on. There was we could not see putting the stress on the new school 50 without, and knowing there wasn't going to be a relief school in the near future or within 5 to 10 years, and under enrolling Colonial.
Member Ferrant, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was caught up in looking at those numbers.
Yes, that's kind of what I wanted to see is what would be the, to look at more of, hold on, Colonial's numbers as well, and just see what makes sense. Because if we're going to pull from Colonial and then we're overcrowding now the new school, and, you know, I just like to see what those numbers would look like.
So, is that on? Okay. Currently Colonial's at 3,450. Their capacity is 3,788. With Everby coming online, we have them by the time Everby finishes, in 10 years, we've got 3,736 at Colonial. The reason it's not like an additional 500 is because we do have lower numbers that are aging up in the current Colonials. If you look at the kindergarten through third grade, they're much lower than they were, say, 5 years ago, and that is going to have an impact on Colonial as well. So that, coupled with all the choice options that there are right now, we have them just going up to the 3,700s in 10 years.
So if we were to, say we were to do this, or we take part of Vista Lakes and that Everby, how many students are we talking in that area that we're like either keeping at Colonial or we'd be pulling into the new school? Does that make sense?
All right. Well,
sorry, I'm like,
I don't have the options, but that Everby, the project itself, is about 500 high school students. Okay. And that doesn't even include does not include the Vista Lakes portion. The portion that Mr. Daly was discussing, the piece that is south, is about 74 residing students, 28 of which actually attend Colonial that are south, and that's not the entire Vista Lakes community, that's just the portion that's south of that. So if you were to pull both of those in, just to give an estimate, we would be way above their capacity. So 50 under the option that is recommended. By 2028, we have them at 2,939. So you add another 500 to that, they're well over capacity by 2028.
okay. And then you're also saying that that area of Colonial Vista Lakes, it's more of a, it's not a growing community, it's more steady, correct?
Right, right.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Member Salamanca.
Okay. This was another one that I got thrown into, and I actually think a lot of the Vista Lakes community history extends back to Darrell Flynn and beyond. There's a lot of history here on developers and what this community was told and what eventually happened and all of that. And obviously, we don't have control about promises that developers make or home associations make. And I've talked to Daly family about this, and they know this too. And this is, I would love to get the board's feedback on this, because I was open to looking into the Vista Lakes community south when I came into the board, because it was a small number of students, and it didn't feel like a big thing, right? Since then, one of the things that I've gotten mixed signals from the Vista Lakes community is, when we had offered half of the community south of Lee Vista, before we knew it was one HOA, and we don't like to split communities, it was their community that came to us and said, it's kind of all of us together because it's one community, don't split us up. obviously the numbers have then changed where we said it's such a small number, we don't want to split communities. We took Vista Lakes out. The question here that, I would love feedback from is the folks in the Vista Lakes community have, like Mr. John Daly have said, we would love to be considered for south of Lee Vista in some form of targeted rezone. But I also get a lot of emails and calls from folks in the north part of Lee Vista saying, if you do that, we will again do a big petition for retargeting all of Vista, of Vista Lakes, not just the south. We've already kind of pulled the maps once, done back and forth. The numbers don't look to justify bringing that part of the community back into the maps. I can appreciate that now that we've talked to student enrollment. But I also, I understand where our speakers today come from and the fact that it's small number of folks south. But I do worry that the 70 for students or less opens us up for a whole nother, all of Vista Lakes community. And unfortunately, I don't think the community is aligned on just the south. I think there's a lot of members in the community that want everyone to go in. So I think those are my main concerns because those numbers look a lot different than just the small number. So I will provide that context for the board because it's an area where, helpful context.
Member Farran?
Okay, I'm trying to read the maps well, but middle school to high school, to keep the continuity, how does that work? Are they currently?
Actually, if the option that we are recommending aligns with the middle school option that we have recommended.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what it looked like, but I just wanted to double check because I do feel like we want to keep kids in that same, you don't want to have just one little group of kids going off to a separate school. You want to keep them together, and so that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Superintendent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to also reiterate what Board Member Salamanca said, that small number, 72, if it grows, you need to then see what that does to Colonial High School's enrollment, because that would make a huge difference in their current and projected enrollment. And so that, again, taking into account that we did receive feedback that it wasn't just a small portion, that they didn't want the community split up, and those numbers as we look at the new high school, looking at future projections, the new Everby, and then if we did need to look at that entire community because we didn't want to split them up, it would overcrowd the new high school, and it would drain or bring down the numbers at Colonial.
Could you do one more thing? Could you put up the map? Because I don't have, thank you for giving me this, but I think it might be missing the last couple of pages. So I know that would seem strange, but I can't find it. So if you could go to the map and show me where is this community of the future that,
See, right, all of this area right here.
that's the Everly area you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Everby.
Everby. I'm sorry, Everby. And the portion,
The other port, so Vista Lakes is on the other, Vista Lakes is on the other side of Everby. So Everby is first here, this area, and then Vista Lakes. And I'm shaking, sorry. This isn't that great.
And that's just the portion of Vista Lakes.
that's the portion, I'm sorry, that's the southern portion that Member Salamanca was referring to. And then the rest of Vista Lakes is the larger area above whatever that road is, I'm assuming.
It's,
If you're,
I can't see it. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's hard.
yeah.
I believe it goes up to here. Beat me if I'm wrong, Mr. Daly. I believe, I believe it's this here.
Do you see where Miss Lake's elementary school is? I can't see that from here. Is that?
I believe it's right here.
To the left? Miss Lake's elementary should be up to the left.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
It's the natural line going from across Miss Lake's.
Right on top of that Sea of Colonial. The Sea of Colonial.
I think part of what you're seeing is also Chickasaw, which is not part of Vista Lake. So about half of the space north of Lee Vista Boulevard, that natural roadway is Vista Lake.
Mistake, I should have done that.
Colonial is way out there. If you guys showed it, it's 2 miles versus 8 miles as the bird flies to the new school versus Colonial.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I have a better map.
Absolutely.
I can see it.
Member Castrodano?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure who answers this one. I don't think it's enrollment. But do these large scale developments, do they provide for the school needs of the families that are coming in by setting aside land to build the schools on?
There is a history with this property, and I'm not the person to speak on it, but there is a history based on its location in the Jeep range and this mitigation that it had to go through regarding munitions and
bombing range.
Yes, I'm trying not
Yes, the bombing
I
range.
don't want to try not to use those words.
Oh, yeah.
But there was issue with
The munitions.
they had to go through a special mitigation. That's kind of one of the reasons why it came up to us as a little bit of a surprise, because this project came to us in 2015, and they've been through that mitigation for a long time. And at that point, we didn't receive a property from them. But we've got reserved properties from other developments. We've got properties from Sunbridge, and we've got properties from where 50 is from Starwood, which is now Meridian Parks.
Are they adequate to for the needs of elementary, middle, and high school? What they provide?
Yeah,
We're going to
No,
not
okay.
answer that question because we don't we're not qualified to make that determination.
Okay.
That's facilities.
Okay, sorry.
I would like to answer that question in a few minutes.
You will?
Yes.
And maybe you know, Chair, then when does a development provide that property? Is it when they think it would just make their development more attractive? Or is there some other incentive? Do they get a tax? Tax break? Do they get any kind of benefit? Or is there, and do they, if they do they coordinate with the school district in any of that demographic change?
Is the board all right if I interject and jump out of order here? It might be a great exercise with the new board members to go through the history. I want to make this as short as I can, though. It used to be that there was absolutely no requirement whatsoever for any coordination between governmental bodies that approve land use and the school district. And over time, there was progress made in tying those two. It was the reason I ran for the county commission, because District 1 had the most growth. And the lack of requirement to have schools in place was causing tremendous impacts and portables all over the place. Horizons West was the first community that was actually required to designate land, donate it, kind of. They got $25,000 per acre, was pretty close to donation. And then you all might recall, some of you might recall, but I had proposed a charter amendment that would require that no city, nor could the county, approve any development that generated additional students without first coming to the school district to certify whether there would be capacity in the school. The school district didn't have the ability to deny the development, but they did have a requirement to say we will or we will not have capacity for those students. That then would go to the county. It started with the county, and the county said every time the school district said no, the county said no, development's not going forward. Cities were not cooperating, and so we made it a countywide amendment. It still didn't block a city or the county from going forward, but if, for instance, this, I won't name a city, I was about to, and then I'll get in trouble with my friends in the cities. If a particular city wanted to go forward with a development that was going to increase the overcrowding, and more than a certain percentage of those students were outside of the city, you would have to get joint approval with other governmental bodies, which is a very difficult thing to do. It essentially made it very difficult to move forward without coming to the school district and negotiating and working through what we called a CEA, a Capacity Enhancement Agreement. In retrospect, looking at the CEAs, the district, in all honesty, left a lot on the table. They did not get the full fair share they should have gotten on each development. And for that reason, we have reduced the portables dramatically, but not eliminated them. All of this is moot at this point because the first year I took office here and discovered we weren't collecting enough and thought, okay, let's see if we can't fix that problem. The legislature torpedoed that whole system by providing that any donation, whether it's land, whether it's building a school, any donation must receive 100% impact fee credits for the value of the donation. Given the fact that impact fees are a large source of revenue for us, a very significant portion of our schools for new development comes from impact fees. So if they get a discount or a reduction of their impact fees for every school they build, dollar for dollar, they're really not donating anything. And we're no better off because we're losing the capital revenue from the impact fees. Nice that we got a school, but we're far worse off than we were before that bill passed. Where we stand now is the county and the city of Orlando and the school district had worked together on an MOU. The county abated their charter amendment while that process was working through. And I haven't heard anything in a very, very long time about what the county's plans are now that they have come up with an MOU. I know that we have at least one city that is vehemently opposed to it. Again, I'm not going to call names, but you all know who I'm talking about. And the matter sits with the county to some extent, but I would imagine that if the county tries to move forward and reinstate the charter amendment as it was intended by the voters. By the way, charter amendment means that you, the citizens, vote it in, not us. And you, the citizens, are the only ones who can vote it out, not us. So it is a very binding thing, but it can be overridden by the legislature. And I suspect the fear is that any efforts that we may make in that direction will result in a bill that kills it anyway. So long story short, there was a time when developers only did what worked for them. And we had examples of that. We had developers who said, you know what, I'm going to sell this neighborhood better if I've got a new school. And then there was a time when they had to. And then that went out the window in 2019. Okay? That wasn't bad for a short version. Okay.
I think we have a new presenter when we have our CEA presentation. Yes.
Well, we do. We have a full PowerPoint presentation, but we did it without. So I hope that made sense to most of you all. And I do want to thank every one of you who voted for that charter amendment because although it is not in place right now, the number of portables we have is greatly reduced. And my kids were in a school that had more portables than permanent classrooms. And yeah. And my kids in middle school were eating lunch 45 minutes after they got to school. And so guess what? They weren't hungry 45 minutes after they got to school because I fed them breakfast. And then they had to go the rest of the day with no snack, and they came home famished. So I got smart. I stopped feeding them breakfast so that they would be hungry at 9:30 to eat lunch. That was bad, okay? And that needed to be fixed. And I'm really, really glad I ran for office. It has been rewarding, and I appreciate the voters' trust and support in me all these years, but I'm still saddened that we lost something that was really important to this community, and that's putting our kids and our schools first. All right, end of my speech. I'm not running for office again. You just heard my last speech. So, Member Casterdental, are we done? You good? Okay. Member Salamanca?
Well, I don't know if any other board members have anything to say.
No, I think you're...
Nope.
Well, hang on. No, I don't think so. I think it's your moment of leadership, and I don't envy you. It is a very difficult decision.
Yeah, I follow the recommendation that was proposed out of the three options that we have, and moving forward to public input and next steps. But it makes, out of the three maps, it makes a lot of sense. I think we're accounting for keeping students together through the feeding patterns. When you overlay this map between the middle school that we just talked about and the high school, we keep folks in the communities together and students together through middle school and high school. So I feel good about this. I want to thank Tommy and Stacy for their work. We've been at this for a while, and you've been phenomenal at helping me navigate a very complicated process, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for that.
All right. Well, no objections from the board members with moving forward in that direction. No final vote or decisions being made tonight. And we'll move forward to the public hearings. Superintendent.
We are done, Madam Chair.
All right. With that, the meeting is now adjourned. Good job, team.
Maria, let me ask you something. There's a lot